Right in the nose, 6 o'clock. So thanks for taking time out of your evening to come and join us. I'm Ms. Ray, the assistant principal.
Hi, I'm Paul Harnish. I'm the Director of Student Success and Analytics.
And Mr. Chase hiding over there.
Oh.
He's the director of STEM. He's being shy over there.
Yeah.
He's hiding. Can you guys hear me okay? Do I need the microphone? What's better, the microphone? Microphone, all right. I'll try not to trip on the cord then, okay? Okay, so tonight we invited you here because we understand the importance of the high school and understanding how students need, what courses they need to take in high school in order to go on to post-secondary. And we get this question a lot. So this is why we host these evenings, to help parents understand what the process is. So for high school, of course, the big question always is, what courses should we be taking for our end goal in university? Selecting the right course is always a big one. In most high schools, you'll have 3 different streams. You'll have a -1, a -2, and a -3 stream. Not in all subject areas, of course, which we'll talk about in a couple of minutes. But here at STEM, we only offer the -1. So we're a high academic school with only the -1 available. Okay, so I'm going to speak a little bit about other schools as well, just so you understand what your options are. This is by no means saying that your student can't come to our school. It's just that you understand what the different streams are about. So the -1, -2, -3, the other goal is, of course, that you have to achieve 100 credits in order to graduate from high school. This is not just 100 credits in general. There's a specific criteria that each student needs to meet in order to graduate. Okay. Most of the courses that we offer here are a 5-credit course because we are a smaller school, and to try to do a timetable of 3-credit courses means you would have to alternate those courses throughout the week, and we're just not there yet. So our courses here typically will run on a 5-credit course. So each course you take is worth 5 credits. Now in CTS, which is your option courses, students potentially would get 5, but if they did an extra module, they could get 6. Or maybe they didn't do so well on one module, so they'd only get 4 on this side. Okay, so that's just a little bit of a backstory about credits before we go into what is required. So this is right from Alberta Ed. This is what the requirements are. It does not matter which high school you attend. These are the same requirements everywhere in Alberta. Okay, so when I talked about achieving 100 credits, and I talked about having them in specific areas, this is the breakdown. So in your core subjects, you typically will be taking English through grade 10, grade 11, and grade 12. So those units are usually referred to as a 10, 20, and 30 course. Okay, and they typically will run by that grade level. So in English, you have to get 15 credits. So that would be 5 credits in grade 10, 5 credits in grade 11, and 5 in grade 12. That's how you achieve your 15 in your core subjects. Same with social. Now you might notice here that for math and science it's showing only 10. Alberta Education says that you actually only need 10 credits in these specific areas in order to graduate, but not here at STEM. Here, the expectation is you will take your science and your math all the way to the 30 level as well. That is what makes us unique. But some students in your traditional high schools will only take it to a grade 11, a 20 level, because they have other goals that they're trying to achieve and they do not need those at a 30 level. Students that are attending STEM will need 30 level for post-secondary because of the careers that they're choosing. So the other ones are COM, which is a career and life management course that every student has to take. You only have to take it once for 3 credits. And then you have your phys ed for 3 credits. Those are the only 2 that we offer at a 3-credit level. That's because they go hand in hand. They're always offered together in order to make sure you meet your grad requirements. You wouldn't typically take one and then wait until grade 12 to take the last one. They go hand in hand. Our students, we make sure that they take it in grade 10, just so that there isn't any problem in grade 12 that you wouldn't meet grad requirements because you didn't have phys ed and COM, because that would be a shame to get all the way to grade 12 and you don't graduate because you didn't take your COM class. So we make sure it happens in grade 10 so that we can avoid that. The other 10 credits at a 30 level, that can be any other 30 level course. That could be that math 30. It could be your science 30, but you need 2 other courses to achieve 10 credits at a 30 level. It could be one of your option courses too. So anything other than your English and social, that would qualify as a 30 level course to get another 10 credits. Good so far? And then we call the CTSs, that's their option courses basically. And you need another 10 credits there. Now, a lot of the kids in grade 10 will already have their 10 credits of CTS because they've done 2 options that year, right? So that can take that off that checklist right away, even in grade 10. Now, of course, we encourage kids to take more of the options, even to the 20 or 30, because maybe they're going to use that 30 level course option for university entrance. Maybe not, but they have that potential they can if they want to. So that's another way to achieve a 30 level course. And then basically anything else that you take after this has been met goes into this category of other. And typically that's looking at about 24 credits in order to achieve your total of 100. So if a student, for some reason, got all the way to grade 12, they didn't have a lot of luck in English 30, their grade 12 English, that wouldn't meet the requirement. So then we would have to look at, well, how can they still get their credits in order to graduate on time? And that's when we would have a sit-down conversation, probably with me and parents, and we'd say, okay, how are we going to make this happen? Sometimes there's an online courses you can take. If you're lucky, you can still do it in summer school, but it all depends on this scenario. It's not all the same across the board. So it'd be all about whatever your situation is. But that's how you achieve the 100 credits. And that, again, is standard. Doesn't matter what school you go to. Your expectations would be you have to achieve those 100 credits in these areas. Okay, so to break down, to understand a little bit about each subject area. So we have humanities, which is our social and our English. In social and English, there's different pathways that you can take in order to achieve your goals. And we will look at those next. So here you'll see we have listed the English and Social 10-1, which I explained is typically that's what we offer here. Other high schools will offer a -2. So if you're below a 65% in your humanities, most schools would recommend that you would go to a -2 program in order to see success. That's why when we talk about percentages here and what we feel the students need in order to be successful, we set the guideline at 65 because we know that in English 10, if you're past that with a 65% and you're going on to 20 level, anything lower than that, you're struggling going into your next level. Not that you can't do it, but it does add to that stress that maybe you're not where you need to be to go to the next level. So that's why we talk about the 65% as kind of our benchmark that we feel is an adequate number to see success when you go on to the next level, whether that be 20 or 30. It's the same scenario, right? So really the difference between the -1 and the -2 is how the material is presented. So for instance, if your child was taking a -2 English course, you might only be doing 1 novel study, but in a -1, maybe they'll be doing 2. So the workload is definitely different for sure, which allows you to complete your work within the classroom time slot. But again, we don't offer -2, but I just want to give you the information so you understand if you're talking to other schools, what that means, okay? Let me touch on this one real quick here. So every university course that you're going to take, you will need English 30-1 in order to get into the program. That is required. Now, some of the trade schools will take a -2 to get in, but typically our clientele here, you guys will be applying for the higher academic programs, and you likely will need a 30-1 with an 80% or higher. We bring in a lot of universities because we like to have them communicate with you guys to understand what the requirements are. So you have a firm understanding moving into your next level of high school of what your expectations are in order to achieve your goal in university. That's why we have those visits, right? Any questions so far? Okay, next. Yeah, that was just kind of summarizing exactly what I said about the 65%. So choosing your English and social, that the expectations, this is, I explained a little bit about how in the -2, you would be using most of your classroom time in order to get your work completed. They allow you that time, whereas the -1, you would be probably assigned some homework for sure. So it's just a higher level of thinking. Yes, I kind of did. So the marks, squeaking by with a 50% or failing a -1 course does not help for graduation or university. So basically what that's saying to you is it's beneficial to be successful in a course. And if that means you need to step down to a -2 to see that success, that's okay. Okay, it's better to be successful in one level and maybe upgrade later, as opposed to pushing yourself through on one and going, well, I only got a 60 or a 50 and that's that class. Now what do I do? So there's so many different ways of looking at that. But I think the point that we want to make is that there's more than one way to get there. Just don't give up on what you're looking at. And maybe it's a case by case scenario where you need to have a conversation. What does that look like for your child? Okay, so science, again, so science is the math are those two that we talked about that actually you only need a 20 level in order to graduate. But because here at STEM, we're a -1 and we're high academic, we push you to branch out into your sciences, okay? So this one, if you were to take a science below a 60% at another traditional school, you would be looking at a science 1424 just to achieve those credits. That's not something that we offer here, but again, just letting you know what your options are. For at STEM, we do recommend that you do the science 10, and once you achieve at least a minimum of that 65%, that then allows you to break out into the other sciences, the biochem and physics. Now, the majority of the kids here at STEM will take all three sciences. That's why we don't offer spares for students, because they will need a full timetable for the full 3 years in order to achieve credits for each one of these sciences. So you don't have to take all three. Once you get your credits for science 10, and maybe you decided that you're going into medicine, just going to take the bio route, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. You don't have to take the other two sciences. But again, the majority of the students here are taking all three sciences. Spares. So if they're not filling their timetable with the different core classes, they have to take an option. There's still no spares. And then, of course, your science 10 is your prereq for bio 20. And then once you pass bio 20, you can move on to the bio 30, and the same for chem and physics. Okay, so it's just that gradual movement up to the 30 level courses. This is just, again, reiterating the percentages. If you're 65% and higher, you're going to be more successful trying to move on to the next grade level than if you were 60% and under. So this is just a bit of a summary to help students understand. Obviously, if you're doing math 20 and 30 and you're not doing so well on it, I wouldn't recommend that you do the physics. That might not be the best fit for you if you're struggling already in the math. Okay, so this kind of gives you an idea of whether or not that's a good move for you to move into all three sciences, or maybe you know that you're doing really well in that bio, so you're going to stick with that instead. Right? This just breaks it down a little bit for you to see kind of what the requirements would be. It doesn't mean you can't. You can try whatever you want. This is just a guideline to say, in our experience, if you're not doing well in a math 20 or 30 level, you might not want to try to attempt physics 30, because then the student gets frustrated. Yep. That is the trend.
Yeah, that's the grades right now, are they matching up to your expectation?
They are, yes, they are meeting the expectation.
How would you say,
So next year's our grade clubs, yes.
yeah, I think, so what is the transition to the union? Like,
Yeah, that's a really good question. That's awesome. So actually, Mr. Harnish is going to touch base on the university stuff in a few minutes. I'm not going to talk the entire time, so you get a break from me, and he's going to touch base on what those requirements are. But to answer your question right now, yes, we are meeting the expectation. Or the students are meeting the expectations on what is required for them to move into the next level. So yes, we are seeing that they are capable of doing this. This is for sure. Yeah, and again, like I said, it's not mandatory that they take all 3 sciences, but if you're capable of doing that, then we always recommend that you do it, because why not? That opens up your doors for universities, so you have so many more choices to choose from, as opposed to just one. But maybe that's the only way you want to go, so that's fine too, right? Yes. The question was, if they're not meeting the standard, do we recommend that they move to another school? It's not a hard, fast rule. I think I would have to say it would be case by case. I can't make that recommendation. That's more of a family decision to make. All I do is give you the information, and then you guys decide as a family whether or not that's a good fit. If you're seeing that your child is struggling in a class, and you think that they would have more success in a -2, then I mean, that's something that you have to talk about and say, maybe it would be better to see you have success there and see some growth before you move into a -1 stream. I can't really answer that as a, you know, a one answer sort of thing. It's really based on the student. So I would have to know who you're talking about, and we would have to have a conversation, and I would give you my advice, but in the end, it's up to the parents. So if a parent wanted to push that child to stay in the school and do better, maybe you'd be looking at a tutor. Maybe that's something you'd have to do outside of the school, or maybe you make sure that that child is getting the help in the building at lunchtimes for extra support, that sort of thing, because we do offer lunch hour supports in every subject. So if your child is telling you differently, that's not true. It is there. They often don't want to give up their lunch hour, which I don't blame them, but there is support in the school at lunch hour for students that are struggling. But that's when I would recommend maybe a conversation and see what we can come up with together. We never want to ask a child to leave the building, never, because most of the time it's a good fit. It's just they need a little extra support academically to get them where they need to be.
Usually it's one subject matter, not all the subject matters, and that's the hard case by case, because you hate to leave the school just because you don't think you can do social 20-1. So,
Yeah.
but if you're struggling
Good point.
across the board, that's a different conversation.
Mhm.
You could also look at redoing the course, doing it again,
That's true.
as another option.
And that's a really good one too, because we don't offer the spares for the students, so they'll have time in their timetable. If they weren't successful in Math 10 and they're like, well, I really would prefer to have a 75 instead of that 65, as long as we can fit it into their timetable, we'll look at them having a redo of that. They can only get credits for it once, so they can take it as many times as they want, but they only get the credits one time only. So they can sit in on it till they're in grade 12 if they want, but yeah, yes. For high school, yeah, so it's half semesters, 2 semesters. 4 courses per term. So math is always the tough one. That's often the area that a lot of kids will struggle at. So this again, Mr. Furnish, can you flip to the next slide? Because I like the chart there. Okay, the chart is a little bit easier to understand. So this basically breaks down for you students coming to us or currently in the school in grade 9. If they're below that 60%, this is where they would likely be recommended to go for their math. It's a -3 math. Again, you're meeting grad requirements. Sometimes that's the only goal, is you just want to graduate. There's all kinds of stories out there. So that's why there's never just one easy answer. It depends on the situation. And then maybe that student takes math 30-3 here, and then they decide, you know what, I need math for university, so I'm gonna backtrack and I'm gonna upgrade and do some other, the higher levels in order to be at that math 31 by the time I graduate in semester 2 in grade 12. And that's an option too, if it fits your timetable. So there's more than one way to get there. The unfortunate thing is we don't offer that. That's the problem. So we only offer the -1 stream. Watching us live.
Yes, they are.
The audio is lagging?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so this is, again, just a really good visual, and this would, of course, be the 60% plus would be in the -2, but this is our journey here. At STEM would be the math 9, 70%. I know that's a bit higher. We do stick with the 65, but 70 is always better. And then you're moving on to these levels, and we do finish here in grade 12 with a math 31 if the student chooses to go all that way. Any questions about the math? I know this one is always the tough one because kids will often struggle in math and they don't know how to get past that in order to be successful. So you can redo, you can look at, a different journey if that's the case. Maybe you do math in summer school so that you're on track. That's an option too, right? Correct. Yeah. So math 10C foundations was just another term for a -2. But yeah, you would follow this path here. Okay. But there's nothing that, like I said, you can upgrade. You can do a math 30-2. Let's just hypothetically say you get to that one through summer school courses and you want to upgrade, then you come back into the classroom to upgrade. There's lots of options. It all depends on what your end goal is for university. Yes. Semester 2? Potentially they could, yes. Yeah. Now, I wouldn't fast track a child. So that's what we would call fast tracking. So you would basically be doing 2 levels in 1 year. You would have to make, I personally would feel that 70 wouldn't be high enough to fast track. I think if you're trying to do 2 in 1 year, you probably should be higher than a 70. But would we look at it? Yes, for sure, we would. Keeping in mind that any kids that were taking math 20 in grade 11 would be priority because they would still need to take it first at one time before somebody else could fast track. Obviously, that's not a problem in our building because of the size right now, so we're still able to do that. But bigger schools might not be able to accommodate that. Yeah, yes. Right. Well, isn't that an exciting question? Am I allowed to share some? So, so likely we would begin with phys ed and comm, to be honest. But yeah, Mr. Harnish will speak more to that at another time. Yes, sorry, I'm not sure who had their hand up first. Go ahead. 100%. So the question was, if they do phys ed and comm somewhere else, do the credits count? Absolutely. As long as it is registered with Alberta Ed. So that's the catch. So there's a lot of online courses that you can take, but you need to make sure that they're connected so we can see the credits. So I won't let kids drop their phys ed and comm until they come back in the fall and show me that they've completed it. So I look on their documents and I make sure that it's recorded. Once I see that it's recorded and yes, you got your credits, perfect. I'll pop them out of those courses and they get to choose something different. But I've just seen too many times where I'm like, okay, sure, you're going to do it. That's no problem. And then they come back in the phone like, oh, sorry, I didn't do it because blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, great. Now we got to try to squeeze that into your schedule. So I like to be safe. I do it the other way. You guys take it, bring me the credits, and then I'm happy to give you a different choice. Yes. VR, yes. Yeah. We're actually running it for the first time this term. Yeah. Will we be offering math for summer school? Well, that's still yet to be determined. So our our hopes are that, yes, we will be offering a bunch of the core. It would only be cores, right? Other than the phys ed and comm. But right now, the only one I can really speak to is what is likely will start with phys ed and comm. Yeah. So I think I sent out last year to parents a list of schools that will take our kiddos. So not Edmonton Public won't take our kids because they're just too large and they have enough kids registering for summer school already. So they won't accept our students. Black Gold, which is like Beaumont, Leduc area, they take our students. Elk Island, which is Sherwood Park East, they'll take our kiddos, and the same with St. Albert. Okay, or you can do online. There's Vista Virtual, Progressive Academy as well. Those are some choices if you're looking at summer school. So I can send that out again this year for you guys, so you have a list. But obviously your kiddos can come and see me anytime if they want to ask me what those names were again. Yes, you can take the course somewhere else and get the credits, and it counts towards your graduation. Yeah. Yes. For next year? For grade 12, I actually really, to be truthful with you, I don't have those numbers in front of me. I know we have a good list of students that are applying for grade 12. And of course, our grade 9 cohort is so large this year, they're going to take care of grade 10, no problem. But I don't have those numbers to share with you, sorry. In an AP program? Yeah. Yeah, so we get this question a lot. The AP program is actually a program that is purchased to be delivered in a school environment. It's not part of the Alberta curriculum. It's an add-on. Yeah, it's an add-on. So keep in mind, the AP program is great, don't get me wrong, but it's double the work. So every time you write an exam, you're writing it twice. You have to do one for your regular class and you have to do one for AP. That's not necessarily a disadvantage. The advantage of that is when you apply for university, they get to choose from 2 marks from each subject. So that's the advantage. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to get in because you've taken AP. That's not a sure thing, but it does give you another option. But that's twice the pressure on your kiddo to write exams at the end of the year. So it's a family decision if you think that's, you know. Right, so you're wondering whether or not it's the same level as AP? Yes. Correct, okay. So I personally feel, yes, we are at that high academic level already as an AP, and because we only offer the -1, our expectations are always that much higher for our kids without having the additional exams.
Diploma.
Would they challenge the diploma mark? Yes, 100%. They would be ready for a diploma exam. Absolutely. Yeah.
If you look at our grade 9 results, our PAT results are quite a bit higher than those in the province and those in Edmonton and those in other STEM schools in the Edmonton area, significantly higher. So we would expect the same results of the diploma results. So to your question, I heard one of our student union president best. He said it best. He said, when we write tests here, by the time they write the achievement test, the provincial exams, our tests are so hard that when they write theirs, it's easy. Those were his words, but.
I have one more question to this. So earlier this year, you guys mentioned that you got some kind of collaboration with MIT was like MIT.
Yes.
So what kind of collaboration do you have? Like, let's say if my son want to be an engineer, what are the chances? Like if you get 12 bucks out here, what benefit you will get with your relationship with MIT? So,
Yeah, so a lot of our courses are MIT inspired as well. So we have a partnership with MIT, an MOU.
Sir, thank you. We have an MOU with MIT. So what that means is a lot of our CTS courses especially are inspired by MIT. So we look at autonomous vehicles, satellite, a lot of the clubs that we have too are also inspired by MIT. So the programming is similar. I don't know if you want to add to that, Mr. Chase.
Well,
yeah.
MIT takes about 7 Canadians a year, so we're not off the list, but that's a very short list. But when we went to visit MIT, we were very pleased to know that we're already doing a lot of things that they prioritized. Our students definitely wouldn't have to take, Harvard had the same thing, but onboarding to STEM for all their grads, all the entrance, all the students coming to them that don't know how to use 3D printers, don't know how to do the design stuff, whereas we do that the whole time. So if we're one of the lucky 7, you're gonna hit the ground running, but they just don't take very many Canadians.
Also, the only high school in Canada that I'm aware of that has
I think Mr. Chase is up next anyway, actually, about option courses, I believe. So, yeah, he is. That's why I wanted to pause, because he might as well take the microphone now, and you guys can quiz him on option courses.
Sounds good. I was thinking also about the fast tracking of math. We don't recommend taking it in summer school because it's very condensed. It's 2 weeks and you just won't get the same amount of time to absorb the content. You might pass it, but it's going to not feel like you're ready for the next level. And if you fast track math 30 way too fast, you're going to have maybe a whole year off of math before we go to university. And that university math is going to hit you like a ton of bricks. So if you work through it and take the full amount of time and you do it once per year, you're more mature by math 30-1. And then there's not a big gap of time between when you take math in high school and when you take it again in university, because it is a very hard course in university.
If I can just add what Mr. Chase said, I had the opportunity to teach high school math many times in my career. And I find the students that are most successful in taking math over the summer are those that are doing it again, because you can easily fill in the gaps. But to Mr. Chase's point, to do it for the first time in summer school, we would not recommend.
All right, let's take a look. Please. So this looks very similar. If you're from our school, you'll recognize the strands that we're working with here. We have the engineering strand in green. In yellow, we have got computer science and robotics. Lots of overlap there, but we're trying to keep the 2 threads a little bit separate. In red, it used to just be media. Now it's marketing and media. We're taking a business slant and working with junior achievement. They're bringing in lots of business savviness, connecting with a lot of entrepreneurs. So, for example, if you're into starting your own entrepreneurship, a business, or learning about starting up a small business for yourself, this would be one where you could take some content there. The reason why I go into more detail is because it hasn't always been like that. So this is an adaptation that we're making. We've also added the biomed strand as well. So if you like biomedical engineering in junior high, you would want to explore that further. Biomed is kind of an intro to healthcare. And if you wanted to stick with the healthcare side, you could stay in the biomed strand. If you like the research and the biology and the cell, like microbiology, we're looking at starting up this new synthetic biology pathway, which is about genetic engineering. We also have some specializations that don't quite fit into a STEM category, but they still keep people's options open. So you'll notice Psychology 20. If you guys took Psychology 20 in your high school career, it'd be the same style of psychology. It is the course called Psychology. Just gives students some alternate exposure that's not always STEM, robotics, and AI focused. Space exploration is very self-explanatory. STEAM 10 and STEAM 20 are art programs, but they are designed to use computer programming, robotics, some engineering concepts as well. So it's not art 10 with paintbrushes and easels. It's some of that, but also quite a lot of like digital media, interactive displays, TVs that will track your motion with different kind of patterns and stuff like that. So there's a heavy amount of programming involved in those things as well. Artificial intelligence, probably we'll move it into our computer science strand eventually. But this is a locally developed course that we have the level 15, 25, and eventually we'll get to the 35s. If they're not colored, that means they're planned, but they're not going to be offered next year. For you guys, if you're grade 9, moving into the high school, you're worried about this first row here. So you can take an engineering course, which would be very similar to 3D design and fabrication, or architecture. Robotics, if you've done Vex robotics, you could start here. If you've done any video game design or coding 101, and you really enjoyed it, start looking in these directions. Marketing and media would be like Shark Tank in grade 9. Biomed, like I said, biomedical engineering. So the difference between high school and junior high, though, is that you just don't have as much time to experiment. So hopefully by the time you've hit grade 7, 8, 9, some of you, you've started to identify the streams, the strands that you're really passionate about, and then you want to double down. You only need 10 CTS credits, and especially if you're going to take all of the sciences, you won't have time to get to the 35 level in everything. So junior high is where we dabbled with a little bit of everything, we hope. Now, when you're picking your CTS options, you're going to make conscious decisions about which ones you're the most passionate about. You might not know that yet. Hopefully you have some that you can maybe throw out of your net, some that you can focus on, some that you might have to think about whether you want to take them or not. So lots of variety. If you're listening from home, if you're not from our school, if you're just checking it out for your first time, don't feel that you're going to be so far behind you will never catch up. The grade 10 course will catch you up. It's designed to get everyone up to the same speed and then start moving forward together. If you've already been here for quite some time and you're starting to feel very comfortable, say with computer science and coding, you did coding 101 and you're really good at it, you still will learn things in that first year. It's not a waste of your time. You'll be able to go a bit further, a bit faster. But the goal is that we do catch everybody up. So if you're not from STEM, if you're planning on coming here for grade 10, you still can hit the ground running in those courses. Does anyone have any questions about the options? So one thing, Paul's going to talk more about this, but we build these by talking to industry. We talk to post-secondary schools in our area. We work with McEwen. We have an MOU with them as well. MIT, we're working closely with U of A engineering faculty. They give us a lot of feedback about the gaps that they see most students in Alberta have between graduating from grade 12 and what they need to succeed at the university level, and what industry executives are hoping for in the people that they hire. And all of these options are built around those preps. So we kind of look at where students need to end up. We reverse engineer the process to make sure that we're sequentially giving them the skills at the level that they need and that they're ready for, so that by the time they graduate grade 12, they're ready to move on to post-secondary without that big delay in skills. So that's our goal behind our program. Yes.
In the options, do they have to go linear, or is it okay for them to choose? So in grade 10, if you choose, say, innovative engineering, but you feel that it's not for you, can you go to marketing? Do you have that flexibility to do something?
You can hop from subject to subject, but you must always go 15 to 25 to 35. So if you got to 25 and you said, you know what, I've learned a lot about engineering, but I want to try something else, you'd have to go back to the 15 level. But in high school, there is a lot more of that fluidity with, you'll have students that are, or classes that are made up of grade 11, 10, 10s, 11s, 12s. Time will be a factor to try to get all the way to the end, but sometimes people still do just want a dabble at everything. And I guarantee you that at the grade 10 level, even they're doing things that are really advanced. So we still set them up. So if that is also a strategy, but I know that you need some at the 30 level for graduation requirements.
You do, you need, well, no, not necessarily. Not
think
necessarily.
If you take all the sciences to
Depending on what
the, or many of the sciences to the 30 level and math to the 30 level, then you don't need these 30 levels either. So you,
It just benefits you, if you're looking at using this for university entrance, then you need to take it to a 30 level. But if you're not, if you just want to dabble, you just want to figure out, try different things, then no, it doesn't have to be to a 30 level. But often kids will take it because it looks good when they're applying for university as well.
The decision really is based on how many credits you already have. to
Correct.
graduate, whether you choose to dabble or you choose.
That's right.
yeah, it comes down that first blue graph,
Yeah.
that blue chart that was shown where you need 100 credits. If you pass everything with flying colors, you'll probably end with 121. Is that it? Yeah. So, because common and phys ed are 6 credits, not 5. So you have, what, you got some wiggle room for fiddling.
But the 10 CTS credits are compulsory.
Correct.
You need 10,
10
but you'll knock
CTS.
those out in the first year.
Yeah.
You, depending on how your schedule works, you've got the 4 cores. In science, if you want to take more than them, there's no science 20, so you have to take one of the sciences. Maybe you take 2 of them. That's only 5 of your 8 for the year. So you're going to need to take an option to fill your schedule. You're going to want to take an option to fill your schedule, because even though these are rigorous options and you're learning a lot, they still, I would say that if you did all core all the time, you'd be really bogged down. You'd be quite stressed, especially because they all have final exams. and the options don't. They usually have a final project that you do in class time. So exam break would be mighty rich if you were doing all 8, which is just not possible.
So it's not mandatory, but
Which courses might be high. You know, spares are allowed.
So spares, like if I think back to I had spares in Sal Comp in Sherwood Park. We didn't have options like this, so I opted for a spare. I did all my sciences and I was able to end up with a spare. I'm not sure that helped me. Perhaps it did relieve the exam stress, but if they're taking options instead, they're still upskilling in these very valuable domains, but it doesn't add that exam stress. I can't say that I made smart choices with my spares. And I'm just like, you have these great intentions to use them to study and to catch up and do flex work, but often they're not used in that way. So,
I get it.
yeah, it depends on the kid. That's the kid you're talking about. Very hard worker, but,
means you don't have a class in a certain block. So maybe you only have 3 classes out of your 4.
free time.
Yeah, free time to do whatever. And there's really not, there's nowhere else for kids to go unless they start driving and they want to drive home. But it's just something that we don't feel is a benefit. And because the majority of our kiddos here will be taking all 3 sciences, they won't get an option of having a spare anyway. So it's just, and we're a high academic school, your expectations are you need to be in class. And being able to take an option course instead of doing all 3 sciences is just going to help you to be more well-rounded. You're going to have a better variety of things that you experience. That's what high school is about. Take as many of your options as you can to figure out what it is you want to do. So by the time you get to university, you're not wasting mom and dad's money because you already know your path, right? So that's what we use our time for. Yes,
These are the only options that are.
for right now.
You guys don't offer second language at all?
No,
You don't want to?
no, we won't.
Part of our charter is we just actually can't take on everything. Right now, our high school population is on the smaller side and growing. So getting butts and seats, we can't offer too many things, but this selection is actually, the conference. I'm quite proud of the selection.
Now, keep in mind, you're more than welcome to take a second language at a different school. They offer them in the evening, or you can do it online. You can do it during summer school. Some schools will offer it, right? So there is other choices.
Really, this is what sets us apart from other schools. It's the robustness and the focus on STEM in our CTS, our options. This is what we think. I mean, we have high academic rigor in all of our academic courses, but these options is really a lot of the reason why people choose our school. It's also a lot of the reason why industry and post-secondary want to partner with us, because this is where the flexibility of that lies, and I'll speak a little bit about that.
And is it 65% pass mark?
It's not quite the same. Like we do build on everything we learn to get to the next level. But there's enough overlap. Like if you bear down and you did your hardest, the amount of computer science you would learn at the 15 level would carry you through to the next levels. Like, and there's always overlap. We kind of adjust to the students' abilities with the projects that we assign, and there's a very open-ended project work. So we'll give a challenge and the student will use whatever tools they've already learned across the board and they can use them to solve a problem. So it's kind of it adapts itself very nicely to the student's level of effort and knowledge without adding all the extra stress.
But keeping in mind, if you're doing robotics to a 30 level and you plan on using that for university, 50% will cut it.
Right.
Right?
You talked about industry partnership. Can you give us a little practical guidance?
I'm going to. Yes, I will. Yeah, I promise.
He's on it right now.
Thank you, Mr. Chase.
All right, good evening. My name is Paul Harnish. I'm the Director of Student Success and Analytics here. I really have 2 roles here, just to give you an idea of what I do. I just arrived in August. I recently came from government and worked in career education, which is all of these kind of CTS courses, work experience, dual credit, apprenticeship, locally developed courses, or that area of responsibility. So this is a really good fit. I'm really excited to be here and to work with all of you and all of my peers and all of the students that attend the school. So the 2 roles I speak about is analyzing data. So we have rigorous data systems. All of our assessments are tied to curriculum, which isn't the case in all schools. We blueprint them on purpose and we compare them. We remove questions that aren't good. We work with our sister school in Calgary, STEM Innovation Academy, and we have common assessments and we compare those. So students are held to a high standard, which is a real reason why I believe our students do so well. So that's part of my role here is to analyze that data and work with teachers to improve teaching and learning. So that's one hat I wear. And then the other hat I wear is I work with post-secondaries and industry to build partnerships. So just arriving in August, we spoke about some of those post-secondary partnerships already. So when I speak about a collegiate model, there's two things that a collegiate must have. One of them is partnerships with post-secondary, and the other one is partnerships with industry. So I'm going to give you some real examples of what we're doing here at STEM Collegiate, which is very, very exciting. So career pathways, I did mention one thing. I said, I can't remember if I said work experience or work integrated learning. Work integrated learning is a term I much prefer. So work experience are basically credits that you can receive, and you can use up to 15 of them towards graduation. You get about 25, for every 25 hours, you can get 1 credit. So we're looking at developing some of these for our students for next year, what we would call internships. So if you think of an apprenticeship in the trades, that's a part of a trade. You have to have a certain amount of hours. Well, we want to use that same concept in the non-trade space. So you think of financial institutions, medicine, those kind of areas, engineering. A lot of students only get that when they go to post-secondary. What we want to do is start giving our students these experiences while they're in high school. So already we have some partnerships with some industry folks, and if you are from industry, which I'm sure many of you are, it takes a little while to build those relationships and to have a relationship with industry. So we are developing some really strong relationships. We have some great connections through our board, as well as through some of our parents here. So if you are interested in these, I would love to chat with you to give some kids some of those experiences. So we're looking at those for next year. We don't plan on giving 15 credits because that would be really robust. We want to save it for our grade 12s and maybe give about 5 credits. So that would be up to 125 hours. Now, there's many ways that these work experiences can happen. They can happen now that we have hybrid, right? You can go to the workplace. Maybe some of it can be done online here at the school. Maybe we set up a little space, or all of it can be online. So, so we're really excited as we explore those. RAP, that's the apprenticeship program that is registered. It's through Advanced Ed. It's well established here in Alberta. You don't get RAP at the school. I just wanted to share that. If you're interested in RAP in trades, you can go to another school, but we're looking at the apprenticeship style in the non-trade spaces. So that is what we call work experience, but we're going to refer to it to as work integrated learning. So we don't expect that our students are going to go to McDonald's to work, and they can if they want. That's a great experience. I worked at McDonald's when I was in high school, but we're looking at giving students more broad experiences. So, you know, working maybe with engineering firms as an example. So that is in development. These are just to highlight some of our diploma requirements. So I did talk about work experience. Work experience would fit into those other credits. If it was at the grade 12 level, they could count towards those 30 level courses, but most of our students would already have achieved that in math and or science. So this is just a reminder of the diploma requirements. University. So university requirements. So most universities, they have different requirements than what grad requirements are, depending on the program that you want to go into. I know Ms. Roya indicated that English 30-1 is required at almost all universities. Other courses that are required, Social 30-1 is required at some universities. Depending on the program you want to go into, if you want to go into engineering, right, you're going to need your math 30. You're likely going to need, depending on the type of engineering, you're going to need your physics 30, maybe your chem 30. Bio 30 is more for those medical fields. So those are what universities would require, depending on what you're going to go into. We have comm and phys ed and STEM options. Now, a whole lot of universities, many of them do not look that closely at CTS, although this may change. I think universities are starting to recognize the level of courses that we have in there to accept some of those courses. So a lot of the colleges do accept that, but a lot of post-secondaries are paying more and more attention to that, especially in the technology fields. So career planning. I'm going to talk a little bit about career planning. Before I do so, I just want to give you some examples because I know I had a question about some real industry examples. So here's some examples that we've had very recently. So we work with an industry. I won't mention all of their names at this time, but through a good connection, this industry company actually works with NASA, works with Boeing, works with Lockheed Martin, and they were fortunate to loan us some software. So if you're in engineering 15 or 25 at the moment, that group we're actually working with because we've been asked to present at the Aviation and Defense Summit that's here in Edmonton. So they've reached out to us and say, hey, would you have a group of students that could tackle a problem and present at this conference? So what we're hoping to do is use some of that software that industry has shared with us in the classroom and then use that as part of the challenge to demonstrate what our students can do at this upcoming summit. So there's a real application of using industry software in the classroom to meet curriculum demands and then to share that in a public space. So that's one example. I have a few, but I wanted to make sure I shared that one with you today. So we talk about career planning. Students at our school are familiar with ALICE, or at least they should be. We did go around and share that. That's the made by Albertans for Albertans. Are you familiar with this tool, ALIS? It used to stand for Alberta Learning and Information System. It's an old acronym, but actually it's where the career planning stuff lies. So I saw a couple of students raise their hand. That makes me smile. And there's a lot of planning tools that are on here. I encourage you to go home and look at ALICE if you're not familiar with this. It's a great planning tool. It does share many inventories. So there's strength inventories that students can fill out to determine what their strengths are. These inventories will then tell you what careers you might be good at. I don't know if you remember doing these in school. I remember doing these in school a long time ago. This is all digital and on a website now. And then it'll show you the courses you need to take in high school, the courses you need to take in post-secondary. It'll indicate whether the job is going to be in demand in the next 3 to 5 years. It'll share the qualifications. It'll share how much they pay, a lot of those things. So when we think about partnering with industry, we are working on a career day that's coming up hopefully next month that we're going to have industry in our school. We also have lots of industry speakers that come and present, teach alongside our students. We recently had an engineering firm that came in and did that in our science to talk about bridges. If you're part of that, I think it was our physics 20 class. So these are the kind of things that our students get exposed to here at STEM. These are some helpful links just to share with you. Feel free to take a picture of this. Those are online. These are some of the resources to look at. You have your Alberta student number. That's your ASN. That's how all students are identified in our provincial systems. You have a DAR, which indicates your detailed academic record. That will indicate all the marks and all the courses that you've completed. We encourage students to log into this to see their status. You can see your attendance in PowerSchool. Recently moved to Schoology, which is our information system. So if you're able to see all of your students' work on that as well. And then there's some other sites there at the bottom as well. All right, I think that brings us to the end of our university info sessions, but now we have some time for some Q&A. So if you have any questions, we'll just kind of hand it off to the best person to respond. Yes.
The easy one is there's some word that there was going to be a separate high school, maybe like Calgary, what's really said. And so for this coming year, is it going to all be in this school? Physically?
Yes, we'll be in the school physically. Yeah, we're trying to get another school. I don't think that's hidden, but even if we were approved today, it would still take a couple of years until that school, until we landed obtained the land and built the building and had the planning and all those kind of things. So yeah, it's not a quick process.
I understand dash one. See, there's other options in other schools, but that's the expectation of the children, and I get that. So for my expectation, and I think for most of the parents and students, it would be fair to ask, what are the expectations of the teachers here? Because as a new school, when it started, you obviously have a lot of, we'll call it kinks to work on, right? And I appreciate that. And as it continues to move along and have people like yourself here helping out, that's great. I really appreciate it. But for high school, where do you think it's going with expectations of the teachers? And
how really the quality is with the teachers, with teaching, because when you have that expectation, if you say the marks are good, I'm not saying all of it is on the kids, but it's both sides, and you want to see that it's a great process, obviously a great experience and all that other good stuff, because I can appreciate all these great options, but the quality of the teaching.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. It's tough for teachers to be, especially in high school, to have the expertise in all the areas. And I think maybe that's part of what you're getting at. So we do have teacher professional development that takes many forms. But part of this that I want to draw is our partnership with industry is we're looking at industry connections so that we can be, our teachers can be on the edge of all the new technologies and everything that's happening in the industry world. So when I talk about partnerships with industry, we also have some partnerships that provide professional learning for our teachers as well. We also partner with our school, STEM Innovation Academy in Calgary. They've been around a couple of years longer than us. So we work very closely with them to deliver professional learning for our teachers. We actually went there this year and did some professional learning with them as well. So we access the expertise that we have to grow our teachers as well. We also look at when we bring in people. Recently, we hired an engineer from the University of Alberta, students. The students may have talked about him, Safe. He's a third-year electrical engineer. So that's one of the partnerships that we have with the University of Alberta, so we can bring that expertise to our teachers. So for example, Safe works at, is it Alberta Sat? He works with the Alberta Sat Club at the University of Alberta, where they build satellites, put them into space. We are starting up the high school version of that, CanSat. So, our teachers may not have the expertise to build satellites. So Safe is helping with that because he's part of that club. He's also an electrical engineer and he works with our teachers here. So those are a few examples. I don't know if I addressed your question, but yeah, those are some of the things. Yeah, we recently hired a lab technician this year. So Leanne, she works with us very closely. She actually purchases the materials and works with our teachers to have labs each and every day from grade 7 to grade 11. So that was an improvement. When we talk about having a new school is iterative and you grow each year, that was some of the growth that we made this year as well.
So,
Well, does Aaron normally post this to the student hub?
he said he was gonna send it out to parents. I put it on.
So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally.
Might have other.
And these scholarship links also are very useful as well. A lot of people don't claim scholarships, so you're competing against only a few people.
Yeah, and just to add to the scholarship conversation, again, we're in development and working with industry. We're approaching industry to support some scholarships for our students for next year that would be unique to STEM Collegiate. So again, if any of you have any interest in that, I would love to chat with you as well.
Then unrelated, the STEM school recently moved from Teams to Schoology. What was the impetus for that? And how are, are there any advantages to it?
Okay, I'll take that one too, I guess. So Schoology is actually an app that's attached to PowerSchool. So there's a lot of power with that. So right now we haven't introduced all the functionality of it because it's a part of our transition plan to transition to a new content management system. So there's lots more power in that, I guess. Part of that we'll start to introduce more in the fall. But yeah, there were lots of reasons to switch to that. Also, our sister school in Calgary uses the same system. So there's a great alignment of sharing resources in the background. Yeah, so we just didn't do it willy-nilly. I know that we got used to Teams, but yeah, there's some advantages to Schoology. I'm sure there's some disadvantages as well. But I know it's learning for all of us. So no, I appreciate the question. Yeah, I agree. It probably is a little bit more clunky, but I think there's also more, parents can log in on their own. You don't need your child's password and that to log in. So, and it's attached to your PowerPoint. And eventually, in the fall, what we're hoping is that when you input assignments through Schoology, when teachers mark it, it'll go directly to PowerSchool. So you'd have one spot to see the marks. You don't have to, yeah, so it'll all be an integrated system. So we've only turned on some of the functionality at the moment as we make this transition.
Teachers being upskilled in that as well, especially with AI being so common. Especially with the way things are changing, what is this totally different?
Yeah, we agree. I think we all recognize that technology is changing very quickly and the introduction of AI, and we have to navigate that. So I think we're very proud at our school to ensure that our teachers are updated in that. But also, I mean, we make sure our students are updated in that. We have the week of we have the day of AI, the boot camp that all of our junior highs do that first week, so that they all have the same level of experiences and expertise when they work in that digital world. Recently, we met with a very prominent technology company in Edmonton, and we asked them, what are the 3 things you're looking for in students when you hire them? He said, number 1, they need to be really good at their craft, whatever that is. It could be a really niche. This was, like I said, a technology. So they're very good in design, very good in graphics, or very good in coding. You need to be very good at their craft. Number 2, they have to be able to use AI to enhance their own work. That was very important, not to replace their own creativity, but to enhance it. And then number 3 is this idea of the soft skills. That's your collaboration, your empathy, your working with others, your ability to take feedback. So I know when I see this here at our school, goosebumps already just talking about it, is when I see our robotics teams, right? You know, I grew up as an athlete, working in teams. I also have a nerdy side to me as well. Obviously, I'm here. But I'm very proud of our students, and we're a place that we're very proud to celebrate the academic side of students. And when I see the robotics teams and they go and they compete in challenges, and yet they have to partner with different schools for every different competition, and partner and develop strategy and adjust, and take feedback for the next competition. Oh, it makes me a little more excited to see those things, because that is exactly what industry is looking for from our kiddos.
On the skilling side of staff as well, we do lots of PD. We've gone down to Calgary, for example. They do have a head start. We've adopted a lot of technology that they're using. We're also getting a lot of technologies from local areas as well in Edmonton. The ability for us to do PD is better than any school board I've ever been a part of before. And one other thing I'll mention is that our school, because we are a board of just one school in Edmonton, we can be very quick with policy changes, like adoption of AI, for example, in a way that the larger boards take many more years to kind of adopt that. So I find that we move fast with technology, and when we're doing our hiring process, most of the questions I'm asking them are about STEM technology related. And when we're putting teachers in classrooms, we're making sure that they're in a place where they have skills and passion, not handing them the option of one wanted to teach or something.
Any other questions?
Okay, well, thank you all for joining us tonight. And obviously, if you come up with other questions going forward, you know where to find us. Feel free to reach out, and we'll be around for a bit longer if you want to stay behind and ask us private questions. Thanks for coming.